it's hard to go through that dark night of the ego. And yet when you're doing it with enlightened witnesses who are mirroring you, there's a reciprocity that's going on.
Getting older is unavoidable, but if you're anything like me, birthdays can be a tough time. A reminder of years passing and that eventually this will all be over. What if it didn't have to be that way?
Guess what? If you can shift your mindset on aging from a negative to a positive, you gain 7.5 years of additional longevity.
Hold on, let's just stop for a second. That's amazing. Chip Conley is an incredibly successful entrepreneur. From his hotel chain to his work with Airbnb, but more than that, he's become a leader in rethinking the way we move into middle age and beyond.
When we're in midlife, we're going through all kinds of transitions, but they're often internal.
Yes.
Don't compare your insides with everybody else's outsides. Oh, I'm not the only one suffering. These folks over here are doing empty nest, or that person just got divorced, or this person just retired or lost their job.
No matter how old you are or where you are on life's journey, Chip's hard-won insights on aging, depression, and the modern workplace will give you renewed purpose, clarity, and possibility.
The world is full of highly functional people quietly falling apart.
Before we start the show, I wanted to share that at the end of this episode, I will be giving everyone watching and listening an Enough Bracelet. The Enough Bracelet has been a great tool for me on my journey, and sharing it with others is one of my greatest joys. So enjoy this conversation and stick around at the end for details on how you can receive an Enough Bracelet from me as well. Chip Conley, you truly are one of the deepest thinkers I've ever met when it comes to the human journey. Now you've become very famous for the middle part of the human journey, which I'm excited to dig into because I am in midlife, and I think a lot of people watching or listening are in midlife, and midlife has proven to be very difficult for me and others. But really, I mean, you really think deeply about this experience that we call the human journey. And so that is why I'm really excited to have you on. And before we get started, I feel like I need to do, for some people, a little bio. So Chip is a hell of an entrepreneur. In his 20s, he started what became the second largest boutique hotel company in the world, Joie de Vie. He then went to Airbnb, where you were the head of the global hospitality and strategy, but probably more importantly, you really found yourself becoming a modern elder. Is that correct?
That's true. I was the mentor to the three founders, and they started calling me the modern elder. I didn't like that, but they said, Chip, a modern elder is someone who's as curious as they are wise. And I love that, the alchemy of curiosity and wisdom.
Yes, I love that. And you've written 8 books. You served on the board of Esalen and Burning Man, 2 of my favorite places on the planet. And recently, your most recent book is Learning to Love Midlife. And that's what I'm really excited to dig into today. What age would you define midlife for people who are?
It's historically, it was perceived as being 40 to 60, and then it moved 45 to 65. But I have a very expansive view of midlife. I think it's 35 to 75. And let me explain that. So early adulthood, goes 18 to 30, 35. And then later adulthood, especially for those who are living to 90 or 100, might start around 75. So if you have early, you have late, and then you have mid. So midlife is mid. And so 35 to 75 could be the range. But I think the core of midlife is really around 45 to 60 to 65.
Okay. And then when I first came to Modern Elder Academy, the wisdom school that you created a few years ago, you explained that to me, but you also explained to us about this happiness curve. And I think the happiness curve is the reason why a lot of us, come to somewhere like Modern Elder, and probably why you create it. Can you explain what the happiness curve is and the research behind that?
It's been going, the research has been going on for about 20 years and globally, about 50 countries. And what they've studied is life satisfaction at different ages. And it's changed recently in the sense that people going into adulthood are very unhappy. But historically, there was a long, slow decline in life satisfaction starting around age 22.
And
it bottoms at around 45 to 50, 47.2 being the exact low point, which was a point that you knew very well.
I did.
And then starting around age 50, people get happier with each decade after that. So you're happier in your 50s than 40s, 60s than 50s, 70s than 60s, and women in their 80s than 70s. So interesting is that we tend to think of getting older as being a bad thing, but the U curve of happiness says, listen, after you have this low point around the second half of your 40s, you get happier.
That's great. That's great news. And the other thing I like about that is, I've been working a lot with Kristen Neff on Enough, and self-compassion is so important in our mental wellness journey. And one of the things that she talks about is that commonality is one step to her framework. So kind of acknowledge what you're suffering for, and then knowing that you're not alone. And so
that's a key piece of it.
Right?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
please.
That is one of the biggest revelations people have, with this revelation that, I'm not the only one suffering. These folks over here are doing empty nest, or that person just got divorced, or this person just retired or lost their job and is feeling like the identity that has defined them was their business card. And now they don't know who they are. There's so much commonality. But when we're in midlife, which is also called middlescence, we're going through all kinds of transitions, but they're often internal. Yes. When you're going through adolescence, they're external.
Sure.
They're internal too, but a lot of them are external. They're puberty. They're growing.
Very visible.
Growing. So a lot of the transitions we go through in midlife are really internal, and we don't have a peer group that we're doing that with and talking about it with, nor is there any social infrastructure. So yes.
Yeah. So but for anyone listening or watching, if you're in that kind of 40 to 55 or 40 to 60 range and you're not having your best day, know that you're not alone.
Yep.
And also it gets better, and science shows it.
That's right.
Okay, great. Now, I've known you about 10 years. And in those 10 years, I think you've been thriving. I've seen you publish books. I've seen you start and grow the Modern Elder Academy to multiple campuses. You've been a great source of positivity for me on my journey. It feels like you've really been in flow. But I know that hasn't always been your story. Right. And so I would love it if you would be willing to kind of take us back to the time in your life and when you suffered. Why do you think you're suffering? And then ultimately, kind of, how did you come out of that suffering?
Yeah. So I started a boutique hotel company when I was 26. But the story before that is, I am Stephen Townsend Conley Jr. I am a chip off the old block. My father was a Marine captain in the reserves. My dad, I was the only son and the oldest. I had 2 younger sisters. And so Dad said to me early in my life, I want you to be a better version of me.
That's pressure.
Yeah. So he was my baseball coach, and I was the star pitcher. He was a Eagle Scout and the Boy Scout leader, and I became an Eagle Scout. I went to the same high school as my dad. I played water polo there like my dad did. I was student body president of that high school like my dad was. Went to college at the same college as my dad, Stanford. And it was around age 22 when I came out as a gay man. And that was such a shock to him and to me, because actually I had dated women. I had a fiance that I was probably going to get married to in college, because my dad met my mom in college. So at age 22, I had to start to chart a path that was different than my father's. But one of my dad's biggest fears, beyond the fact that I came out in 1983 in the midst of the early AIDS crisis, was I was not going to be ambitious.
Wow.
So at age 26, I started this boutique hotel company, bought a broken down pay-by-the-hour motel in the Tenderloin, renamed it the Phoenix, and it became a rock and roll hotel and became very successful, and ultimately grew the company to 52 boutique hotels. So I was on this path of ambition.
Yeah.
So in many ways, I was defined by my most recent success. And I was not lovable for who I am, but what I do. And that was really in my head. In my late 40s, in my early 40s, we suffered through the dot-com bust in 9/11. Most of my hotels were in the Bay Area. And but we got through it. But in my later 40s, we were going into the Great Recession. I was enjoying writing books and giving speeches. I didn't really want to run this company anymore. We had
30, which had become a big company.
Big company, 3,500 employees, 52 hotels. I mean, it was just a lot. And so I was struggling with that. I was struggling with a relationship that looked like it was going to be ending, but not by my choice. I have a foster son who was an adult who was going to San Quentin wrongfully. So I was trying to get him out there. I lost 5 male friends to suicide during a 2.5-year period during the Great Recession. One of whom's name was Chip. I mean, I don't have a lot of friends named Chip, but there was this friend of mine named Chip who was really a spiritual counselor to many people, but he took his own life. And so all that was happening at the same time that I was having some suicide ideation myself.
Wow. And this is the guy that is, head of all the student body stuff, goes to Stanford, water polo team captain. I mean, no one in those days would ever imagine.
It all looked good on the outside.
Yeah. And this is a common story.
There's a 12-step saying, which is, don't compare your insides with everybody else's outsides.
Ooh, I like that.
And so for me, I was comparing that. I could see that going into the Great Recession, that this was going to be very punishing financially and maybe even emotionally. And I just didn't feel like I had it in me to be the leader. And I felt like I was betraying my company. And I just wanted to escape. I didn't really want this identity anymore.
Yeah.
And so what happened is I was having this, suicide ideation. I was having these dreams of, nightmares of car crashes and cancer, which I was saying to my YPO forum mates. And then I had an NDE at age 47.
What's an NDE?
A near-death experience.
Oh, wow. Okay.
At 47, at the bottom of the U-curve of happiness, my first mentee in my life was a guy named Gavin Newsom, who, when I became his mentor, I was 35, he was 28. He was not in politics. He was a hospitality entrepreneur who was struggling. And I started mentoring him. This is 30 years ago. He had a bachelor party for his second wedding. And I broke my ankle playing baseball at this wedding. And I had a cut on my leg that led to a septic leg, which led to me being on an antibiotic, which led to me having an allergic reaction to the antibiotic.
Wow.
And that's why I went flatline.
How long were you flatlined?
I was flatlined 9 times over 90 minutes. The longest moment was for about 90 seconds. But I was, on average, it was about 30 seconds each time. So when you go to the other side and you die, you have this recognition that, every day could be your last. And, who knows?
I decided not to take advertising for the first season of No Magic Pill, so I could actually use these moments to talk about something I'm super passionate about. Now, one of those things is my morning routine. And every morning it starts the same way. I drink morning water. I take this packet, I pour it into this bottle, and I drink it. Now, what's in this packet? It has creatine, L-theanine, magnesium, many other supplements, electrolytes, basically all the things that I used to have to take so many supplements for. I mean, my kitchen counter, it looked like a pharmacy. I mean, it had bottles of pills and pills and pills, and half the time I would even forget to take them. So now it's all in this simple formula that my friend Austin created, and I do it every day. And this month, we're giving everyone a special offer. Go to morningwater.co/no magic pill. And when you sign up, you'll get 25% off your first month. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have.
And so I started a process with one of my best friends who happens to now live here in Santa Fe. She's a coach. And she really helped me to see that, I could start to curate a new life for myself. Ultimately, I sold my company to the Pritzker family that owns Hyatt, and my Joie de Vivre is now called JDV. It's a Hyatt brand. But I sold it at the bottom of the market. I did not have a huge financial benefit from it. I still owned a bunch of the real estate, which is where I got a lot of benefit from. But so I felt a little bit like a failure because I could, if I'd waited 3 or 4 more years, I could have sold. We were the second biggest. Kimpton was the biggest. Kimpton sold for $440 million. I could have sold for maybe, I don't know, maybe half that or a third of that, but I sold it for a lot less than that.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, I felt free. And that was something I hadn't felt in a long time.
And let's just pause for that for a second, because so much of what I hear from people who are suffering and what I really experienced, the number one thing I'd say, I feel trapped.
We can be trapped based upon the ghetto of our own ego.
Yes.
People sometimes say it's the dark night of the soul. It's really the dark night of the ego.
Yes.
And I like to make that distinction, because your soul knows what's right for you. And, your soul, in my opinion, your soul incarnates in you, and your job is to be the best steward of that soul in this lifetime.
Beautiful.
And, you have a body, but you are a soul, as opposed to you are a body and you have a soul. And so for me, my soul was, I think, directing me in the right direction. But my ego was at odds, because I didn't want to be a PIP, a previously important person.
Yes.
I was used to being a VIP. And as the largest hotelier in San Francisco, I got all kinds of perks. And the bottom line is, my ego didn't want to feel like it had failed. And my ego didn't know what was going to be next. And so that dark night of the ego was me having to do the kind of thing I did when I was 22, when I had to come out to my father and say, I am not the person you think I am. I don't necessarily want to be a better version of you. And at age 47 or 48, I was like, I've created a monster here, and it's not a bad monster. It's just not me. It's not who I am now.
Yes.
Now, it may have been who I was.
Sure.
And I don't want to dismiss the fact that, I am the person I am as a result of all the decisions I made along the way. But to feel trapped based upon this identity that I am portraying to the world and embodying myself was awful. And that's, I think, why a lot of people end up doing very destructive things to themselves, because it's their way of trying to somehow free themselves from that identity.
It's interesting. There's a quote from a book I read this year by Martha Beck. Do you know Martha Beck?
Martha's on our faculty here at MEA.
Oh my gosh.
She just taught here last month.
Come on, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
She's become a good friend.
Give her a big hug for me. And you're going to love this, and you probably already know this, but she wrote a book called Integrity.
Yeah, The Way of Integrity.
Way of Integrity.
Yep.
And in the opening chapter, there's this quote. I want to read it because I think it's exactly what you're speaking to, and as I've gone back and looked at, like, why did I suffer so much? Why did I want to end my life? This quote has really summed it up for me. And it says, of all of her experiences, from her most intimate private encounters to the most diligent formal research, gradually coalesced to reveal one simple truth. Integrity is the cure for unhappiness, period. Of all the strategies and skills I've ever learned, the ones that actually work are those that help people see where they've abandoned their own deep sense of truth and followed some other set of directives.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, what I'm hearing from you and so many others, is they've abandoned their own truth for someone else's, directives, or even directives they created themselves that no longer serve them anymore.
Yeah, the problem for a lot of people is they don't know how to find that truth again. So there's a truth there, and there's a soul there, and sometimes we have to look for these external things. I will acknowledge, and I've not really talked about this publicly very much. I have written a little bit about it, but I never talked about it on a podcast. I was on my way driving to the Golden Gate Bridge to jump. I was at that point 48. So this was actually after my flatline experience, but it was my relationship had ended. My son, who had been in jail, now was in San Quentin. I was feeling like a failure in everything in my life. So while I'm driving to the Golden Gate Bridge, I call my friend Vanda, my best friend and my coach, and I tell her what I'm doing, and she says, pull over. And I was listening to Sirius XM, and right as I pull over, Aretha Franklin comes on the station singing Amazing Grace. And so I'm talking to Vanda she says, if you need to find a policeman there to help you get home and to just leave the car there, you can do that. And at that point, I didn't even realize I was doing this, but I was digging the car keys into my arm and I was starting to bleed. And so I was just so distraught that I was like doing pain to myself. But the amazing grace was really, so it was just like wondrous. My soul felt it, and my soul felt like this is a sign. And it was a sign. And from that day forward, things started to get a lot better. But yeah, so for the year after, this was the summer of, my flatline experience was August of 2008. This was August 2009. So I did, after the flatline experience, have a really rough year. Yeah. But there's this sense that sometimes we have to look for divinity to show up in our life. And for me, the divinity was that song. It was also my best friend being there for me, and me realizing that there's an alternative way. And the challenge when we're depressed or we're in a difficult state is, it's like the walls are closing in, and it's the opposite of curiosity. Curiosity opens up possibilities.
Yes.
But depression has a tendency to actually narrow.
Yeah.
And you get narrow and focused on exactly what it is that you're unhappy about.
Yes.
And for me, that was all these things that I was failing at. And so to be able to have someone, and whether that's a professional or a friend or a family member who can help open the aperture.
So important.
You're doing your photography now.
Yes.
And the aperture is part of a camera.
Yeah.
And being able to open the aperture allows light in.
Yes.
And allows you to see other possibilities. And so that's what I did. And so back to your Martha Beck quote.
Yeah.
Integrity. So a lot of times we think of integrity as being ethics.
Yes.
Truthful.
Yeah.
But it is truthful, but it's truthful in the sense of to be whole.
Yes.
So to integrate is to be whole.
Yes.
So we are growing old, but we're also growing whole.
Yes.
And so part of my frame for MEA is how to help people to grow whole while they can see that, guess what? If you can shift your mindset on aging from a negative to a positive, Becca Levy at Yale has shown that you gain 7.5 years of additional longevity.
Hold on, let's just stop for that. That's an amazing statistic that you just rattled off that I don't want to get lost. So just by changing your mindset.
On a consistent basis, yes.
And the mindset changes what exactly?
Moving from a negative point of view on aging to a positive point of view, to see the upside of aging. And to do that on a prolonged basis gains you 7.5 years of life. If you can start that in midlife. If you stop smoking at 50, you get 4 years. If you start exercising at 50, you get 2 years. So this is worth more than
the greatest
stopping
hack of all.
smoking. Exactly.
And working out.
Better than ice baths, better than supplements.
I mean, I feel like we could just dedicate a whole podcast and book to this one thing.
That is what MEA is all about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I absolutely love that. And the other thing, to go back, and I really appreciate you sharing the story about the bridge. You had personally shared that, and I was not going to ask you about it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important to know, for people who are listening, to know it was that real.
Yeah.
It was that real, and you had someone to talk to. And I think that's the thing I continue to share with people I talk to, is the most important thing with someone who's really suffering is making sure they have someone that they can share their suffering with. You're never a burden to those that you love to say, hey, I am at the end, I need help. And in that way, if you know someone that's suffering, you can help them get the help. Because so often when someone's at that acute level of suffering, it is the equivalent of being in a car accident.
Yeah.
And you would never look at someone mangled in a car accident and say, oh, I don't know if you should go to the hospital right away. Yeah. Or I think you can figure this out on your own. No, you rush them to the hospital. And oftentimes we need to be, either rushed to a facility or to get the right help, or a number of different, interventions. I'm a big fan of ketamine when someone's in that space. But I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because it's so important that we feel comfortable talking about this, because it really can be the difference. Just having one person.
The world is full of highly functional people quietly falling apart.
Yes.
When I think about the 5 friends of mine who took their lives over the course of 2.5 years, only one of them was there some level of distress that was obvious.
The rest, you were surprised.
Total surprise.
Yeah.
So they were highly functional.
Mm-hmm.
They're dealing with their lawyers. They're dealing with all the stuff. They were married and they had kids, but highly functional people quietly falling apart. And the quietly falling apart is often not, one of the things you did well, Blake, is you reached out.
Yes.
And you reached out to me. You reached out to other people. We were there to try to support you. At times, we felt a little impotent because I can't do it for you, but I can be there to show you how much I love you and how much value you offer to people in the world, not because of your successes, but because of who you are. Yeah. And that's a really important piece of it too, especially for the highly functional people. If we think that we're loved because of what we do in the world,
then bankruptcy is like death.
Bankruptcy is death.
Yeah.
A divorce is death. Yeah. Losing, whatever it is that you're losing can feel like it's an ego death.
Yeah.
And that's what, frankly, going through an ego death is, having a program like MEA where people can go through an ego death safely.
Yes. That's what I love about MEA.
I am ready to let go of whatever that fill in the blank.
And in community.
Yeah. I'm ready to let go of that. I'm ready to realize I'm not alone.
Yes.
There are other people here. And for some people, it's just like, oh, I'm ready to let go of being, the mother who's mothering my kids. And now I have 3 kids all out in the world. And I'm an empty nester with my husband, and I don't even know my husband, and he doesn't know me. And I have to let go of the fact I'm the mother who's trying to mother my kids who are off being adults.
Yes.
And so there's an identity that has to be let go of. And that's why we do our sort of our sort of hallmark thing, throwing, into the fire.
Yes.
The great midlife edit, what we're ready to let go of.
Yeah.
Okay, so during this break, I'm going to tell you about 2 more things that I'm super excited about. And the first one is something that I talked to Michael Pollan about on my episode with him. And it's this AI therapy app called Sonia. Now, I met the founders at this mental health conference, and they encouraged me to try it. And at first I was super skeptical. And then after about 2 weeks, I was blown away at how deep these conversations were going and how helpful it was. And now I've been using it for 6 months. And there's not a week that I don't use it. I mean, I still have my therapist, but I don't know about you, but if I wake up at 4 a.m. on a Thursday with a bunch of anxiety, my therapist isn't available. And that's when I go to Sonia. And so I just want to share it today because it has had such a huge impact on my mental health and on my healing journey. And I kind of want everyone in the world to know about it. The company just launched. It's in the Apple App Store. And I think it's free for the first couple weeks, so you can just try it. And I just think it's incredible. And I think it really is going to help a lot of people, whether they have a therapist or not. And the other thing that's really interesting is it's also become like a coach to me. It will text me on Wednesdays when I'm supposed to work out to check if I'm doing my workout. So it's like I have a life coach and a therapist in my pocket. And I'm going to play a clip right now because you got to kind of see it to believe it.
Hi, Blake. I'm here. What's on your mind right now?
I'm just feeling a little stressed about things right now because I feel like I've got so much going on and I really don't know how to prioritize it.
When everything stacks up at once, it can blur what actually matters and make that old not enough story get louder. Let's slow this down by picking one thread to start with, what feels most pressing in this moment. The important reframe is this. The projects did not cure the depression. They arrived because you healed. And when you overwork to prevent relapse, you actually undermine the things that keep you well, like sleep, presence, movement, and connection. When that edge shows up, it is a signal to reduce load and restore choice, not to push harder.
Okay, one more thing, and this might sound crazy at first, but this year I met some engineers from Nike who invented a new type of office chair that has not only changed my life, but actually saved my back, especially because I am on about 5 hours of Zoom calls every day. The MoovLab chair has 2 different pivot points under the seat, which keeps your body in continuous micro movements all day.
The founders told me it is the equivalent of taking 3,000 steps. And all the lubrication of your joints and the blood flow is why my back no longer hurts. And I can focus on my work so much better. I loved it so much that I actually joined the team as a co-founder. And I will be sending one to every person I know when we launch this fall. If you're interested in learning more or pre-ordering one, we only have 500 in the first run. You can check us out at MoovLab.com. And that's spelled MoovLab.com.
So when you started feeling better, you sold the business, even though it didn't feel like a success at the time, but you made the change you need to make to become true to what your soul wanted to do. That's when I met you. And I was like, and you were telling me what you were doing. And I was like, wow.
Yeah. That was a dozen years ago, 13, 14 years ago. And out of the blue, I get this call from a guy named Brian Chesky, who was the co-founder and CEO of Airbnb. He called me and he said, I want you to be my mentor. We have this tiny little tech company. This was 13 years ago. And we don't know really what we're doing, but we're growing quickly. And, we need somebody like you, a modern elder, to come in and help us. And so that's what led me to my next chapter of my life.
And so when you had that experience there, you then wrote Wisdom at Work, right? A book about your experience there. And then that book, is that what kind of led to okay.
In the writing of the book in Baja, where I had a home on the beach, I went for a run on the beach one day and I had a Baja aha. I had an epiphany. The epiphany was, why don't we have schools for people in midlife, a midlife wisdom school, where people can sort of make sense of what they've learned along the way and then ask themselves, how do I want to curate the second half of my life?
And so, as you said, people are often coming to Modern Elder because they might be feeling a little stuck. They might be feeling a little dissatisfied. They might be thinking their best days are behind them, but they don't want to feel that way.
That's right.
And they're being proactive and they're coming. I would love, because I've seen some amazing transformations myself. I've taught there 3 times now. I love it. Just got back. Maybe give me 1 or 2 examples of someone that came and maybe, was stuck, was dissatisfied. How did they change and did it stick?
One of my favorite stories is a litigator. So she was 60 years old. So average age of the person who comes to MEA is 54. And if you're going to live till 90, 54 is exactly halfway between 18 and 90. So at 54, you have half of your adult life still ahead of you, which is sort of unfathomable. But this woman was 60 and she was a litigator and her father was a lawyer. And so she came to MEA because she hated being a litigator. You can imagine, because you're arguing all day long. And she said, I want to work another 10 years, but I don't necessarily want to be a litigator anymore. And the very first night when we say, if you really knew me, she says, well, if you really knew me, you'd know I'm a litigator. And I think I just want to become a litigation consultant. And everybody in the room was like, well, that sounds pretty similar to me. And that very first night she had a bunch of dreams. It was a cultivating purpose workshop. And she had dreams about her grandmother and that campus, the Baja campus, is on the beach, and she and her grandmother are walking down the beach hand in hand. Well, that's interesting. What was that about? The next morning in the little wisdom circle, she talks to her group about it. The next night she has a dream, but it's more of a memory. And she remembers that when she was a teenager, she used to go over to her grandmother's and cook pies together. And she could smell the pies, and she was just feeling like, I love cooking pies. I love baking. And the next morning she was saying to everybody, when I go overseas, the first thing I look at on a digital map is where's the closest bakery. For some reason, I want to go, if I'm in Peru or Croatia, I just want to sort of see what their baked goods are like. By the end of the week, she came to this realization that there was a passion she had as a kid, which was being a baker or a pastry chef. And her father had drummed into her head that being a lawyer was the thing to do. So she had neglected this passion. And she said, okay, you know what? I'm 60 years old. I'm not going to give up my law practice right now, but I am going to go to a pastry chef school every Saturday and learn pastry chefing. After 13 weeks of that program, it was a 3-month long program, she decided, like, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. There is a bakery in my neighborhood with all the ovens, and it closed down during COVID and it's not reopened. And I'm actually going to give up the law, and I'm actually going to become a bakery entrepreneur because that's what I wanted to do as a kid. And that's what she does now. And so that is one of, hundreds, we've had
thousands.
Almost 10,000 people come through the program. So
it's a lot of good stories.
Yeah.
And I just had a flashback, and I can't believe it just happened because I was there, and it didn't happen when I was there, to my first time to come.
Yeah.
So in the first night or second night, there's an exercise where you have all these stickers with limiting beliefs. I'm not going to get better with age. I've made too many mistakes.
I'll never meet my soulmate.
I'll never meet my soulmate. I don't have enough money for retirement.
Yep.
Like every single kind of possible limiting belief you could have at that stage. And you ask us to pick 4 or 6 and put them on our body or on a piece of paper and hold it, whatever you prefer. And you go around the room and you look in each other's eyes, and then you look at the other person's limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And I remember that being so powerful because it required radical vulnerability.
For sure.
Because you're literally saying like deep secrets you feel about yourself. And then also when you would see someone and you'd be like, how do they feel that way? Right?
Yeah.
But I just had the craziest flashback. When I did it 8 years ago, there was a sticker there that said, I'm not good enough. And I had it on my...
Are you kidding?
I swear to God.
Oh,
so
my
crazy.
gosh, we planted the seed.
So, that has been my biggest healing.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that I had that healing in so many different ways, but it was almost like God was telling me ahead of time, like at some point you're going to have to address this limiting belief that's basically ruining your life. And I had that then. But it's just one of many cool exercises at MEA that really get you to take off the mask, break down the walls. You're in a safe space, and then you can really excavate
and realize you're not alone. You realize that we're all going through this. It's hard. It's hard to go through that dark night of the ego, and yet when you're doing it with enlightened witnesses who are mirroring you, there's a reciprocity that's going on, and you dig a little deeper. We talk about the third vault. We take the first vault is the facts of our life. Okay. The second vault are the stories of our life, and the third vault is the essence of who we are in this moment. Maybe our soul, and helping people to move from facts to stories to really the essence of who you are is part of what we help people do in our week-long programs.
Okay, I want to switch a little bit towards the book. Yeah. Because when did the book come out?
Came out last year, 2024. It was a bestseller, and it was...
your 8th book.
8th book, yeah.
And I think it's so important, especially for, the audience is thinking about, mental wellness, is learning to love midlife, not looking at what you've lost, but what you've gained. Maybe talk a little bit about just why you wrote this book now and what you hope that it will do to help people.
We have a very anti-aging society, and we have an anti-aging industrial complex. Yeah. $600 billion a year of products and services that help people to feel like, okay, aging is a bad thing. I want to stop it. Yeah. Now, I understand that, especially for women. I understand why a lot of people feel the need to try to look younger and to be younger. At the same time, understand that by doing that, you're creating a internalized ageism. Yeah. That is not going to turn back the clock in terms of your chronological age. And so what I really wanted to do was using that Becca Levy stat about helping people to think better about aging, which will be good for their longevity. How do we create a pro-aging environment? And so I did some research and found 12 reasons why life gets better with age. Okay. And that's what the subtitle of the book is. And so here are a few things that get better with age. We know what gets worse with age. Unless we're doing work to our skin, we have more wrinkles. Yep. We have, our short-term memory is not as good. Our body, gravity takes hold of the body. Sure. So, but what gets better? Emotional intelligence improves with age on average, and we are less emotionally reactive. There's wisdom. We build perspective and discernment because of life experiences. We are better able to build lasting and deeper relationships because we're a little bit less egocentric. Because we're less egocentric, also, we are more acquainted with our soul. We get more spiritually curious. Richard Rohr, who we both love, and is a faculty member at MEA, he has quite famously said, the first half of your life, your primary operating system is your ego, and then you overuse it. Mm-hmm. And then around midlife, you actually start shifting toward the soul, but nobody gives you any operating instructions. And so what people are doing is they're starting to move into a place of seeing the bigger part of life. How are you part of a system that's bigger than you? We learn how to edit. We care less about what people think about us.
That's freedom.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Especially for women on that one.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that get better with age.
Yeah.
And what I really wanted to do is help people to see, look at all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. You may have some things get worse with age.
There's so much
that gets better.
And if it's kind of what we, focus on is what has a huge impact on our life. And so by focusing on those.
Yep.
And the other thing that you say in the book that I really like is, instead of looking at midlife as a crisis, you call it a chrysalis.
Yes.
And I think this analogy is one of the greatest things you've given the world.
Oh, thank you.
No, seriously, because I went through it. Yeah. I know all the stages.
Yeah.
But I would love for everyone to hear it from your perspective of what is the chrysalis?
It's funny.
How does it work?
The first time I ever thought of this, I was just sort of thinking about the butterfly journey, the caterpillar, the chrysalis, the butterfly. And in some ways it describes what people think about midlife being a chrysalis. You have this caterpillar in our 20s and 30s and early 40s, we're toiling away.
Yeah.
What happens with a caterpillar before it goes into the chrysalis is it's eating more. Mm-hmm. It's plumping up. It's consuming.
Yeah.
And it's doing.
Yeah.
And it's going out there and being, a good trooper and being an achiever, a striver.
Sounds like my life.
Yeah,
okay.
Mine too.
So far I'm tracking.
And so then inexplicably, it turns itself upside down and spins this cocoon, this chrysalis, in which it's going to go inside and liquefy.
Die. That's very clear.
That's right.
Dies.
Now, within the caterpillar are these imaginal discs that actually form ultimately the butterfly. So within the caterpillar is the butterfly.
The soul is there. The
but
DNA
it has to go through this chrysalis period.
Yes.
And the U-curve of happiness research of showing people around 45 to 50 having a low point is the chrysalis.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't have to be 45 to 50. It could be 40. It could be 55. It could be whatever. But it's that time, and we tend to call it the crisis.
Yes.
But it's really
feels
chrysalis.
That way. Death doesn't feel good.
Yeah, death. The death
and being
of the
gooey
ego.
mass sure doesn't feel good.
No, but it's where the transformation happens.
Yeah.
And the U-curve of happiness data is so conclusive on this that guess what? On the other side of it, maybe you are a butterfly.
Yeah.
Maybe you come out of the chrysalis and you're ready to have a new life as the butterfly. And so the chrysalis, a good language helps people to, a metaphor can be incredibly cathartic because it helps you to see, that could be me.
Yeah, totally. And one of the things that I like about it is the, whatever you call it, what's the outside of is it the chrysalis? Yeah, because the chrysalis is a pretty hard shell.
It is.
And so
it's soft and then it becomes hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So it becomes hard for a reason, because as the gooey mass is forming into the butterfly, it has to be hard for the butterfly to get out so that it strengthens its wings so it can fly.
Right. Yep.
And so when I think about my journey and the personal hell I went through and the definitely ego death that I experienced, and I think, we've learned from yours today too, it was not like I just all of a sudden felt great. It's kind of like you had your near-death experience, which was really beautiful. But then not that many months later, you're at the bridge.
Yeah.
So I also want to give that to people for encouragement, that even if you've hit kind of that gooey mess and you feel like you've, kind of figured out what you want to do next or how you can get out of this, it's not going to be easy. It's not designed to be easy, because by being hard to break out of that shell, then you actually have the strength to fly. And I feel like that's been the last 9 months of my life. And I love that analogy. And I think that part of it is something that is really landed for me.
So the most important thing for us to have coming out of the chrysalis is a growth mindset. And a growth mindset really speaks to this idea of improving and learning. And that's what we do in life, is we get better at something.
Yeah. And that's actually goes back to how do we add 7.5 years to our life, right? Yeah. I mean, seeing aging is not something that's bad, but good. It's a growth mindset.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the opposite of that is a fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset, means that you're just trying to optimize what you have and be perfect. And, that is really debilitating, especially if you're self-critical.
Okay, great. Well, the last topic that I'm excited to talk about is male friendships.
Oh, yes.
This is something that is really important to me. I know it's important to you. We've talked a lot about it. You've been a great friend to me. But talk to us a little bit about the difference between how women and men experience midlife, and how does that affect our relationships?
Yeah, women are socialized as girls to emote and to tell secrets with their friends and to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Boys, on the other hand, on average, again, these are all vast generalizations, are taught to be strong. Big boys don't cry. As such, as boys become men, they find that they need to posture a little bit. And the friendships they have are often not eye-to-eye friendships. They're shoulder-to-shoulder friendships.
I see.
You go hiking with a friend. You go biking with a friend. You go watch a sports game with a friend.
Yeah.
But eye-to-eye friendships are vulnerable.
Yes.
And so the idea as we get older of learning how to be vulnerable is really difficult for a lot of men. So as you go through your 20s and your 30s, the other thing that's happening is we're getting really busy. We're accumulating friends, we're accumulating obligations, responsibilities, we're dating people, we're getting married, we're having children, we're accumulating stuff. We don't have time for friendships. Women are, technically speaking, women are better at multitasking.
Okay.
And one of the things they multitask is friendships. Men, on the other hand, are going out and being a provider and their career, and maybe they have, a family, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of men in their 40s, especially mid to later 40s, they realize that their friendship muscle is atrophied. And their ability to understand that they don't know how to be vulnerable makes it such that they know they want friends. They don't want to admit to being the L word, lonely.
Yeah.
But they don't know what to do about it.
And I guarantee a lot of people listening right now that are head nodding, unfortunately. So
the women are head nodding about their husband.
Yeah.
And the men are, and one of the funny things about MEA is I get to see couples a lot. And for a lot of women, they do not want their husband to retire.
Yes.
Because what they say is, my husband has no friends other than his work friends.
Yeah.
And so when he retires, he's not going to have his work friends.
Yeah.
And so he's going to rely on me. And I have a ton of friends. And so, we really, Jeff Hamui, one of my co-founders of MEA, talks about friendship as a practice.
Okay.
And so if we think about golf, we practice golf, you practice yoga, you practice a lot of things.
Okay.
Why don't we practice friendship?
Oh, this is great. Tell me how you do.
So when you've practiced friendship, you're more intentional about getting better at being a friend.
Okay.
So as opposed to just saying, well, friends are nice to have, but I don't have to work at it.
Yes.
But to be intentional about friendships is getting clear, what am I looking for from a friend?
Okay.
And, how could I be a better friend to someone else? How could I text someone just out of the blue and say, I was just thinking about you and I just wanted you to know it.
Yeah.
I like you.
Yeah. Simple practice.
So Alan Mutuar was one of my best friends growing up. High school, we played water polo together. He ultimately went to the Olympics. He's a much better water polo player than me. And guess what? Alan went off to Stanford with me. We played water polo my first year, and then he kept playing. And he became a pre-med. I became business. We went our separate ways. We're in different fraternities. I came out as a gay man. He was like Don Juan with the women. And we sort of lost touch.
Yeah.
But 25, 30 years later, with friendship as a practice as my intention, I wrote him on Facebook. We were Facebook friends, but I hadn't seen him in a long time. And I said, you know what? You're my best friend. And I didn't say I love you to him at that point. I did say it to him later, in terms of just as a friend.
Yeah.
And I said, I'd like to be in your life again. Now, it took a little bit of boldness.
That's bold and vulnerable.
And courageousness, especially, hey, straight dude, I'm a gay dude, but my God, he immediately wrote me back and said, this is great. I'm so glad you wrote me. Let's hang out. And as it turns out, my partner's Israeli and Jewish. His wife is Jewish, and they loved each other. And so the four of us have become close again. But it took an intentionality.
Yeah. And a little bit of initiative.
An initiative for sure. And a little courage because he might have just said like, hey, he might not have responded.
But what you had nothing to lose in that regard. Yeah.
Exactly. So men who are listening to this.
Yeah.
Please.
This is so important. I mean, this might be like the most important thing we're talking about.
Please be open to taking the step.
Yeah.
Think of friendship as a practice.
Yeah.
Just like golf.
Yeah.
You got to get better at it because the number one pathway, the number one variable for living a longer, healthier, happier life is how invested are we in midlife and beyond in our social connections.
Wow.
So this idea of connectivity is essential.
To longevity.
And yet we do not help people to see it. People are starting to hear about it, but we don't necessarily give people practices.
I have a practice with that.
Yeah.
Don't work out alone.
Yeah.
If you care about longevity and you're going to go to the gym or you're going to go for a hike or something, do it with someone.
You get a twofer.
It's a twofer. It's an absolute twofer. I mean, that is so important. I started doing that in Santa Barbara where, I could work out by myself. Like, no, I go to the gym with a group of guys and those relationships are bonding. I get both. And it's so, so important. I love that you said about you just sent them a message on Facebook.
Yeah.
I found for me, one of the things that I've done as a practice is a video note because it really shows, there's so much that gets
so much emotion.
Yeah. And it takes just as long to send a text message, maybe even shorter if you talk fast like me. And people really respond and they're so touched that I took time to just make a quick video note.
What I would say also is, there's a bunch of research that shows you're, the sum total of the 5 people that you're closest to.
Yes.
So I would say look in your life at the people who you would say are your 5 people who you're closest to, who are not maybe family members.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, what are you learning from them? Because those people are going to mirror who you are and you're going to mirror them. So it may be that it's time that there's 2 or 3 on that list of 5 that it's not you're going to get rid of them.
Yeah.
But you're going to actually start to evolve because there's a couple of the people who you love and who really you admire.
Yeah.
And you want to spend more time with them.
Totally.
And so like being open to the idea in the intentionality, the practice that, hey, there's a golf course over there.
Yep.
And the golf course being a friendship with this other person.
Sure.
I'm not talking about literally. I'm going to go start spending time with that person because through osmosis, I'm going to take on some of their best qualities.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that I know for me, I'm going to make a commitment to at least send a couple of video notes to friends that I haven't connected with in a while. And so I really appreciate you sharing that. And I'm so grateful that you came on the show. And I think we're going to help a lot of people with this episode.
We're on a journey together, my friend.
Yeah.
And Dacher Keltner, the very first faculty, the very first workshop you came to at MEA, famous UC Berkeley professor says that the number one pathway to feeling awe in life is not nature. It's not even collective effervescence, which is number 2, but it is moral beauty. It's seeing compassion, kindness, equanimity, resilience, grit in someone else and being elevated by that. And you are a moral beauty, and hopefully I am too.
100%. Thank you. I love you, bud.
Love you too.
Awesome.
If this episode spoke to you, please share it with a friend, family member, or someone you love. Because No Magic Pill is not just a podcast. It's a resource to help us all live better lives. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and let us know what you think by leaving a comment. A quick note that this episode is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding any medical questions or concerns you may have. Thanks for watching or listening to No Magic Pill. I would love to send you an Enough bracelet as a thank you for being a member of our new community. Just go to weareenough.co/No Magic Pill and claim this gift from me. And please help us spread this important message out into the world. I am enough, you are enough, and we are enough.